Oral communication and presentation skills. Session 5. Topic is organizing your ideas. Dear students, we have been talking about oral presentations. Why do we give oral presentations? What exactly are oral presentations? Who are required to give oral presentations in their life? Importance of oral presentations? And what if we do not get to learn this skill? What will be missing in our armor to deal with the corporate challenges? So, today's lecture is about organizing your ideas. In the last presentation, in the last session, we also talked about organization of your presentation. So, we are going to talk a little further about it. This is the complete topic on organizing your ideas. What is the importance of organizing your ideas? In the last lecture, we talked about finalizing your topic, purpose of your talk, that you need to be clear in your head that what is the purpose of your talk. Today, the session is now getting further narrowed down. Now you have this thing clear in your head that what you're going to talk about. After having this topic clear in your head, now we need to be clear with the ideas regarding the topic. So today we are going to be more focusing on the various ideas which we need to have in our mind when we are giving our presentation. This topic can be any topic from your soft skills to your technical skills or any type of presentations which you have to deliver. So the first topic of today's talk is the importance of clear organization. Organization is actually sequencing your thoughts. If your thoughts are not in sequence, then it will be very difficult for the audience to interpret us. It will be very difficult for the audience to understand exactly what are we trying to talk and what are we trying to talk about. So once we are clear in our head with the flow of our presentation, only then we will be able to bring sense in our talk. You must have noticed that there are a lot of speakers. They have ample knowledge to talk on any point, but their flow of the talk is very abrupt. It becomes very difficult to exactly understand the point which the orator is trying to deliver. So that is something which happens when you do not have the clear organization in your mind. It is very important, like in the last lecture we talked, that mainly there are three sessions or three phases of your presentation. First one is introduction, second is the body of your presentation, and third is the conclusion of your presentation. These are the broader heads which you need to keep in your mind, and then you will further bifurcate this to further organize your talk. So now once you have the ideas, once you have the topic clear in your mind, then you need to have complete flow in your mind regarding your talk. You need to have very clear, organized flow of your talk. In the beginning, there should be an introduction. From the introduction, you will travel to the body of the presentation. You will talk about the main message. You will deliver the main talk about your main topic of presentation. And then from the body, you will reach towards or march towards the end, which is the conclusion. So it is very important that in your mind you have very clear idea before the start of your talk that how exactly will you be managing your talk. Because as an educated presenter, or as a civilized presenter, as an intellectual presenter, this is very important that you have proper sequencing in your mind. You should have proper allocation of time in your mind before the start of your presentation, in which you have this properly allocation done to the introductory, to the mid part, and to the last part of your presentation. So now we have understood the importance of clear organization, because if you do not have clear organization of ideas in your mind, then first and foremost important thing is that you will not be able to deliver your talk within the stipulated time frame. Because many times you will be allotted with only few minutes of talk, and you have to deliver all your message, which may be a very long message, but just because of time constraint you will not let this excuse be given to you that you, because of not having sufficient time, you could not deliver your talk properly. No, you need to be intelligent enough, you need to be vigilant enough, and you need to be sharp enough to accordingly mold your presentation within the time frame allotted to you or allocated to you. That is going to create the difference between you and your competitor. Because at a time when you will be delivering a sales talk, or when you will be giving the presentations, or whenever you will be giving these presentations in the university, every other presenter who is giving the topic talk will be your competitor. So if your presentation is not going to be well organized, your competitor is going to outperform you. And this is the last thing, not even the last thing in the world which you would want to happen to yourself. Therefore, the importance of clear organization in your head is very important. What you have to talk about, then there is complete clarity in your mind regarding the ideas. There is complete clarity of in your mind regarding the sub function of the talk, because your talk is going to be further bifurcated into various subtopics. So you need to be very clear in your head regarding the message of all various sub functions of your principal message of the talk. Therefore, it is very important that you gather your ideas, that you gather your material to save yourself from the embarrassment on the day of presentation. So if you want to get yourself prevented from the embarrassment of the presentation day, then you need to study regarding your presentation. You need to have ideas in your mind. Your mind should not stop working within the stipulated time frames, because longer pauses are going to put very bad impression on your audience. If you need to be strong and if you want to have very impactful presentation, then the sequencing of the talk is important, and not very long pauses is also very important, because very long pauses will give a message as if you are not prepared for your talk and you have to think a lot in your mind to get to the next point, which will look very improper, because we would all like to listen to a presenter who is very, very prepared in the talk, or who is very, very witty. Somebody who need to think a lot is actually going to get us bored. You think yourself that if you are yourself listener to a speaker and that speaker is taking too long to complete a point, then you will initially probably be able to bear the speaker, but eventually you will reach to the point which is going to be the saturation point, and you will just beg in your mind and you would want the speaker to complete the presentation as soon as he can. So therefore this is not something which you want to happen to you. Therefore it is important that before you give the talk regarding the presentation, if you have already clarity in your mind regarding the topic, this is wonderful. But if you do not have clarity, this is not a problem. This is something very normal. This is something which takes place to every presenter. So the homework is that you study, regarding the ideas of your topic. Not knowing the ideas regarding the topic is not a sin, but not preparing yourself before the talk, despite not having clarity regarding your presentation, is a sin. So do not commit the sin. So gathering your ideas and material, you can do this gathering of ideas from various sources. You can use books, you can use presentations which were earlier developed delivered on the same topic. You can check on YouTube various subject material which was already talked about in the same topic. You can check the PDF files on the internet. You can check the books. You can go in the libraries. You can go to your library and find material on the subject you're going to talk about. The main thing is to equip yourself with ample points, that there is no point coming during your talk that your mind is vacant with the ideas. That is not something which is appreciating or which will be appreciated by the audience. So therefore, your mind should be continuously creating ideas. From the idea, there should be a birth of another idea. From that idea, there should be birth of another idea. So if your mind is creative enough and can continue to perform in this manner, then believe you me, you will not be suffering in any situation in life. Do not be dependent on book reading only. Just increase the level of your intellect and have faith, have self confidence. Then you will not be worried that what is the situation of the talk, what is the timing or topic of the talk, because you will have confidence on yourself. Once you learn the driving, once you know how to drive the car, then you need not to go mountains separately to practice how the car is to be driven on mountains. You need not to go in the rivers to practice how to drive in water. You need not to go on bumpy roads to exactly practice how the car is to be driven on the bumpy roads. You only need to know how the car is to be driven. So once you have this familiarity with the various functions of car, then you have this confidence that no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the circumstances are, you will be able to drive in that situation accordingly. You will be managing your speed accordingly. You will be speeding up or speeding down. That is all going to be as per the need of situation. Same works in the presentation. Once you are learning the art of presentation, you're becoming the driver of a presentation. From, I mean, just like you're being the driver of a car, here you are being driver of your presentation. Only you, the driving school will teach you the various functions of the car, and they will give you confidence regarding the start of the car, regarding the various gears which are to be shifted, regarding the reverse driving, regarding the use of mirrors, side mirrors, regarding use of steering, accelerator, brake, and clutch, handbrake. All these functions they will tell you. Now, once you are clear with all of the tools which you have in your baggage, then you will be utilizing these tools according to the situation. Same way in the presentations, you should know all of the tools which you will be using during your presentation. So today's tool is the idea, you know, idea regarding your topic. So you need to be very clear in your head from multiple perspectives regarding the point you will be talking about, because you might have prepared yourself on the topic from a small perspective, and there can be an audience who's very, very intelligent. You will be thrown upon questions which will be totally like rocket launches going way above your head. So you need to be very clear, because once you will be giving yourself intellect regarding the topic, you know, once you have this grasp of knowledge regarding the topic, then you will not be worried that from where that question is coming up. But once you have only ratified only few areas, then you will be worried, oh my God, if the topic is not going to, if the question is not going to be asked from within those topics, then what will you do? So that is the nervous state of a speaker, of a presenter. When he is so not prepared regarding the talk, he will be worried that, I mean, whatever questions are coming from the audience, those questions should be from within that area of study only. But once you have this confidence and faith developed within you, then you will not be worried that from where the question is being asked, you will be very happy to answer question from every or any situation, or from any area. The this the inquisitor is actually coming up with, you will be happy to answer that question out. So now, gathering ideas and material is something very, very important. Give yourself sufficient knowledge. These are your weapons to bear for the battlefield. This is your ammunition for the battlefield, which you will be using during your war or presentation. Organizing the body. Now, once you have given yourself sufficient points regarding the various functional topics of your presentation, now you need to create a balance. You need to create a balance, because if you'll give too much emphasis on the introductory part, then there is going to be problem in the mid part. And if you give too much importance to the mid part, then there can be problems in the concluding parts. So therefore, there is a balance which is to be maintained by the speaker. Now, after having sufficient ideas given to you, and you knowing the time frame in which you have to deliver the talk, now you have to organize the body of your presentation. Because if that body is not properly planned, then you will be facing a disaster. So nobody would want to see the disaster. Even the audience would not want to see you getting collapsed. You would not want to be getting yourself collapsed. Therefore, therefore, in your mind regarding the important. For instance, you're giving a talk on leadership skills. So you need to have very clear idea that you see, and for example, the topic is leadership skills within the organization. Leadership skill within the organization. Now, in what you need to be very clear in your head that in the introductory part, what is the talk which you will have uh, for the introductory portion of your presentation, then which is going to be the what is going to be the content for the mid part, and what is the content for the last part of your presentation. So organization and presentation is very important. Leadership within the organization, it talks about out of the box thinking, problem solving skill, time management skills, people management skills. Leadership is a big word. Leadership is maybe a small word, but with a very big scope. It encompasses every different different skill set which is required to run the organization in the perfect pattern. Therefore, if you are a leader in the organization, you will not be worried that what position you are on. You may be starting the job in the organization, but rather you would be catering to all of the various things which are coming in your way. You would love to answer various questions which are not in your time within your job duties, but if you know the answer, you would love to contribute. You would love to find out the various problems the organization is facing, and if you have the ability to attend and answer those questions, you would love to be part of that as well. Because why? You have this leader in you. A leader is always contributing everywhere the leader can. Life of a leader is just like a life of a volunteer who is ready to volunteer himself or herself for the every sphere of services that that leader actually can deliver. So importance of clear organization, we actually studied, and then from importance of clear organization we came to the gathering of ideas and material. From that we came to the organizing the body. Organizing the body, we need to be very structured during our presentation. Properly given allocated time to the introductory, mid part, and last part is very important. Then the next point is planning the introduction. Planning the introduction is very important, because many times you would not know that how exactly to begin your presentation. Many times you have a lot to talk about your presentation, but you would not simply know where to start. You would be very worried right in the beginning of presentation if you have not planned your presentation very properly, because that initial moment can be very nerve wracking if you have not practiced about it. You will be worried, you will be not very sure that actually from where to start the presentation. This is a real life situation and which is faced by a lot of leaders in the world. They would not know from where to start, you know. So this requires practice. So if you have very clear head, if you have very much clarity in your head, so you actually can start from anywhere. For example, you have to give a talk about leadership. So for example, if I am given this topic to talk on leadership organization, then I will right away start. In the organization, we need people who have problem solving mind. You see, I have started right away. I was not worried. I did not jump myself into a state where I was not clear in my head that from where to start. I right away started. Or, for example, if a different way I had to start, I would say that organizations have to face the music once they are in the business. No matter you would want to face the problems, or no matter you will not be wanting to face the problems, but there are going to be problems. And to solve a problem, you need a leader. You see, again, see, you just saw I have given demonstrated two examples that in two different situations, there were two different ways I started the presentation. So the same way, you should not be worried. You should not be worried at all that you see how exactly you should be starting up your presentation. You only need to be clear in your head regarding your regarding the idea, regarding the topic you are going to talk about, and then you should be very clear in your head regarding the ideas of about your presentation. If you have clarity regarding your ideas, then there is nothing to worry about. Just start, just jump in the talk right away, because you would only be worried uh, if you have not prepared yourself for the topic pretty well. But if you are very clear in your head regarding the topic, then you would not be worried that from where to start and where things are actually mastering. This is just like chess game. The chess game, there is always opening, and after that opening, the game transcends towards the mid part of the game. And as the game proceeds to the mid part, there is there are complications which are very not easy, which are very difficult. So if you have only mastered the introductory part of the chess game, and you would only know that how few moves can be taken to start the game, and you have not practiced the mid part, you are going to face the disaster. If somebody knows how to play chess, then I mean this example would be very appropriate, because chess is not an easy game. It's a very complicated game. It requires intellect, it requires mind. So you need to be master at it. You need to be very confident. You need to know the functions of various pieces and how exactly the various moves can be taken to take yourself away from any situation your counterpart is actually trying to throw you in. So that is something which is very important. Planning the introduction. In the introduction part, you need to talk about. You have to, first of all, you need not to worry that from where to start. Just dive into the topic right away. And once you dive into the topic, automatically the talk is going to get its flow. It is going to pick its flow. Only you need to know that how things are taking place. The general principle is to start in the broader context, in the worldly context, and from the worldly context, you then bring your focus down towards your area of your problem. I mean, the problematic area which you are dealing with. So you start with the global canvas, with the from the global perspective, and you bring it down to your micro organization level issues and problems. You see, so for example, you again there is a talk which you are delivering on the leadership issues in the organizations. Then you'll say in the global level, at the global level, we have seen organizations facing disasters during the time of turmoil. The first and the foremost missing point during those days was not the proper guidance. There were people who knew how to work, but they were directionless. So there was a dire need, there was a very dying need of somebody to give direction to those people who were ready to perform, who knew how to perform, but they were directionless. At least they needed needed to have somebody to give them some direction, and that direction giver is the one to whom we call the leader. So planning the introduction, you start from the worldly level, this way that you see this is how things take place in the world, and then you'll come bring it down to your country. That in our that in our part of the world, in our country, how things are taking place. There are multinationals, then there are local organizations, and there are different way things are being dealt by the organizations. The multinationals that have different cultures, and the local organizations have different cultures. The multinationals are more widely accepted because of the fact that they have wider approaches, because they have this tendency to think out of the box. They do not follow the routine. They would rather follow the way things are required to be tackled, because monotonous ways will not be solving the problems. Or a map which has solved or a map, for example, which has led you to your destination 20 years ago from a source point, might not be able to take you to your destination from the same source point after 20 years, because there are going to be a lot of changes taken place during on that map. So there are going to be changes on the map. Same way, the similar map which has solved a problem 20 years ago will not be able to solve the problem today. Therefore, a monotonous and static way is not the ideal way to solve or deal with the problems. You may just follow any example just to just to start your show, but afterwards you need to pick your own flow, because if you cannot pick your own flow and take your own flow, then there's going to be not very appropriate situation for you. So planning the introduction is actually important, that you properly plan your introduction, that how things are taking place in the world, then how things are taking place in Pakistan, how leadership is being tackled, and being is actually how leadership is being done in the multinational, then in the local organization. Then you'll come to your organization, that you see we, for example, we being a local organization have certain issues which we have to deal with. For example, you're a government organization as well, then you might come across a situation when there is some influence or negative influence used to uh, just push certain hirings in the organization which were not appropriate. So these are various ways then you can actually bring it down to the level of issues, to the level of problems which you people are facing within your organization. You gradually bring that topic down to your organization, and the problems which you are facing in your organization, to address, to have addressal of. So that way, planning the introduction part is very important. So after having this introductory part very properly planned, that from the world level you came to the your country level, from the country level you came at your organization level, and from your organization level you are going to give a start, and that is the introduction. Now from the introductory part, uh, the second part is actually the body part. In here we see planning the introduction and then coming planning the conclusion, but there is another important part, which is planning the mid part of your presentation, which is now little allocated up there in organizing the body. So this rather should be placed between the introduction and conclusion part. So after having the introduction properly done, then you will talk about the problems which your organization is facing. Now in the mid part of the body, in the mid body part, you will tell the actual problems which are there. You will talk about the actual uh, issues which your organization is facing, and why those issues are there as an issue as issues, and why there are certain solutions which are not appropriate, or why if you are trying to solve certain problems out but you're not being able to solve those problems out, what are the various reasons why those things are taking place. You will talk about that. You will talk about the existing leadership issues, existing leadership problems. You will talk about the reasons and sources of those problems, that why that leadership disaster has taken place. There were certain expectations from the existing leaders which were not met. There were certain out of the box thinking which were required from the leaders which was not done. There were people hired at the levels where there were trained resources required, but the people who were hired were not very properly trained to give directions or manage the teams. Many times there are people who are good in operational work, but when it comes to leading the team, they have failed, or they are zero at that. So that is another very problem, that this is also very problematic area, because many times organization just only emphasis on the ability of the employee to solve or do the work at operational level. They would not give much importance to the ability of the person to lead the team, because eventually if that person is being hired to lead the team, even that person is not trained, then that person will be the source of disaster for that organization, as this source will single-handedly will be destroying a lot of new talent. Because if that person is only familiar with few ways that work can be done, then if somebody with ability and with creativity and with having this skill set to solve that problems out in multiple ways, if that person, if that leader, if that somebody who is supposed to be leading the people, number of people, will have a subordinate who is knowing more than that person, then that person, instead of taking that resource as an asset, would rather take that resource as a threat, because he or she will think that I know one way to solve that problem, but from that resource, from that subordinate of mine, whenever I get to meet, he has got seven different answers for a single problem, when I have only single solution. So instead of taking that person as a source, as an asset, you would rather start thinking, or you would rather start taking that resource as a threat. So why? Because there's deficiency in the leadership training. Because when you are there as a leader, then you would rather be more depending upon the way your people will be solving the problems. For example, you are leading the organization and you have single idea in your mind to solve a problem, and you have 20 subordinates who are there to help you out to solve that problem. Now you come up with this problem and you discuss it in front of your 20 number of staff, 20 resources which are there in the organization. And if you tell them the problem and if you tell them the solution, okay, this is the problem and this is the solution, then whole of the organization, all 20 people will follow the simple solution which you have told, and they will try to solve that problem out. Maybe eventually that problem is going to be solved, but there's going to be no new learning for the leader. So here, if the leader would want to learn new things, then the creative way would be that the leader should be discussing only the problem in front of that 20 number of people who are there in the organization. He or she should rather only discuss that this is the problem and I want solution for this problem, and open it, then open everybody to just invite ideas from everybody, just make it a brainstorming session. That way you will be very surprised that you only had this single point in your mind to solve a problem, but once you will open the forum, there would be 20 people coming up with 20 ways that problems can be solved. Now the leader has learned something new. When while following this approach, that you were telling the problem and you were telling the solution yourself, there was no new learning taking place for the leader. The leader was knowing the single solution for the problem and there was no new way of learning. But once the leader is only telling the problem to the resources and he is letting the resources to come up with the solutions, now leader has got one solution with himself already or herself already, and there are 20 new ways within from the 20 resources who are trying to solve the problem out in 20 different manners. So this way new learnings can also take place, only you need to be very vigilant and very attentive in that. So this way, planning the introduction and planning the mid part is actually important. Now, you need not to put a great emphasis on the mid part, because eventually you need to transcend from your mid part to your conclusion. After you have created the body of your talk, once you have talked about the problem, you have talked about various ways the problem can be solved, and multiple solutions you have discussed about, that you see there are multiple ways the problem can be solved. Now you need to transcend, you now need to shift to the concluding part, and in the concluding part you're going to come up with the recommendation. Okay, that I have talked about four ways this problem can be solved, and my recommendation would be that under the prevailing circumstances, option number B, for example, is the best way the problem can be solved. So in the concluding part, you need to allocate proper time. You need, so that you have, in the recommendation part, you have ample time given to yourself, that if you are coming up with the recommendation, then you are coming up with the rationale as well. You were telling the audience that why, if some option has been picked or chosen as an option, then what is the logic behind it. So you would tell the logic behind that option which is chosen by you to solve the problem. So therefore, it is important that you give yourself appropriate time to conclude your talk. It would not be just abrupt ending. It would not be just like that you after having given a lot of emphasis on the mid part of the presentation, and then you cannot certainly say, with this I conclude my presentation and that's it. No, this is not the way. For the proper conclusion of the talk, you need to, like we said, like we discussed, that there should be, if, for example, if you're talking about a problem, in the mid part you have discussed about four ways problems can be solved. The problem can be solved. Then in the last part you will be giving yourself appropriate time to come up with a recommendation. Not only you will come up with the recommendation, but you will also tell the logic. You will also tell the reason why you have reached to that conclusion to solve that problem out. So this way, there is going to be this beauty in your talk. People would be admired. People will be mesmerized. People will be happy. People would love to listen to you. People would love to come to you for problem solving, because people would know that you are very clear in your head regarding any topic, regarding your topic. People would know that you know what you're talking about. If there is any time in future they would need to give a talk on the same topic, they would prefer to have a word with you. They would prefer to have an advice taken from you. Why? Because you will be able to convince them, persuade them in a manner that they will take you as somebody who can easily be referred to as a guide for giving a talk on that topic. So the last part of the talk is adding transitions. Transition is shifting from one point to another. You know, this is we have been talking about that there are three parts of your talk: introduction, mid part, and the conclusion. So adding the transitions mean there should not be abrupt jumping from the introduction to the mid part, and then should not be abrupt ending. There should be smooth flow presentation. There should be very smooth flow. It's just like a curve. It is actually starting from zero, then it's actually taking its peak and peak and peak, then it's touching its peak, and then from the peak it's actually coming back and coming back, and then it's actually touching the ground. You see, so this is the curve which is actually building up. So this is the start, and from the start, this is now going smoothly upward and upward and upward, and this is the mid part of the presentation. And from the mid part, now coming the downward part. Now you're gradually moving towards the ending part of your presentation, and now this curve is getting down and down and down, and then it is touching the earth again, earth surface again. So this is the way your presentation should be organized. There should be a proper flow. There should be smooth flow in your talk. It should not have abrupt jumps from one point to another. There should be very smooth, transition from the first point to the second point and to the third point. So this all can only be done if you have sufficient knowledge in your mind, if you have done proper gathering of ideas, if you know the importance of clear organization first. Only then you will be gathering your ideas and material. And once that those various number of ideas and various number of materials have been studied and talked about and have been studied, now you will be organizing the body, and in that organizing of body you will be allocating this massive knowledge which you have attained regarding the topic. You will be picking the best knowledge which is required to deliver the talk, and then you will be appropriately allocating some knowledge for the introductory part, and you will be bringing some part of the knowledge for the mid part of your presentation, and you will be allocating some part of your knowledge for the last part of your presentation. So this way, there's this distinction between introductory, mid part, and the last part. Organization of your ideas. This way, I mean, you will distribute the multiple ideas which you have discussed and studied before the start of your talk, and you'll be giving the when you will be shaping the presentation up, you will be allocating these various ideas to the introductory, to the mid part, and to the last part of your presentation. And in the last part, like we discussed, that this is of adding of transitions. So in this part you will be maintaining the smooth flow, that is from beginning of from knowing the topic in your mind, then having studied all the relevant ideas, then allocation of those ideas to the introductory and to the mid part and to the last part, and then properly concluding your talk. So with this, we have reached to the end of our topic, today's topic. I hope this was a good and easy topic to have given time to. and hopefully, if we have clarified all the difficult areas for this topic, and if you have any point in your mind, then you can always revert, and you can always replay this presentation as well. So let's conclude the talk, and we will meet in the next lecture.